We are now.
Alright, hello. My name is Chase Meredith, and I'm going to talk to you guys about swearing. We hear swearing every day, right? We're in high school, it's unavoidable. We hear it in the caf, in the library, in class, sometimes the cool teachers swear. But what is swearing? What makes a bad word bad? Historically, swearing has been related to swearing has been words that are related to taboo topics such as religion, sex, bodily functions, and race. In the mid-18th century, the UK banned, quote, taking God's name in vain in common discourse with the Profane Oaths Act. Punishment for disobeying this law was a fine of 1 to 5 shillings, which is about 8 to 42 US dollars. Swearing has changed over time as different topics have become more taboo. For example, now when somebody uses God's name in vain, nobody bats an eye. But when somebody uses a word that relates to sex, that has a big effect, right? Those words that relate to sex, are like the baddest of the bad words. Steven Pinker, he's a Harvard professor. He's done a lot of research into swearing, and he wrote this article in the Harvard Brain. His article is titled "What the," and he made an interesting he shared an interesting finding. He said, "Today, the emotional power of religious swearing may have dimmed, but the psychology of it is still with us." He then gave this example. It's interesting, right? Well, the swear words we use might have changed. The way we use them has not. Some speech experts predict that words relating to LGBT issues are going to eventually become swear words because those words are more debated about more than any time in history. You see, what matters when you swear is the effect you have both on yourself and the audience. Neuroscientists from Cornell University use PET scans to try to identify the effect that swearing has on the brain. In 1999, they found that the amygdala, which is responsible for fear and emotion and memory, was highly active when exposed to swear words. This shows us that swear words are stored in a different part of the brain than most words. They're stored in a more emotional part. However, using different swear words in different situations can have different emotional effects. Steven Pinker identified 6 different types of swearing, each of which have different desired effects. The first one is the one that you normally associate with swearing. It's abusive swearing. When you use abusive swearing, you're trying to emotionally hurt someone else. You're trying to trigger that amygdala to trigger an emotional response from that person. So, as an example, I get mad that Mr. Maybe doesn't give me an A+ in this TED Talk. You know? So I storm into his classroom and I say, "Mr. Maybe." Yeah, I said it. So in doing this, I'm trying to hurt him for hurting my grade. I'm trying to use that swear word to trigger the negative emotional response from his brain. The next type of swearing is called emphatic swearing. When you use emphatic swearing, you're trying to emphasize something. You usually use this kind of swearing when you're feeling excited or like a strong emotion. So, continuing my example, Mr. Maybe gets mad at me because I was disrespectful to him. You know, he says, "That Chase Meredith kid, you know, he's crazy, you know. I'm going to drop his grade." So, he goes to his power school and drops my grade. I get a notification on my phone. And I see that it says, "Your communications grade has dropped." And I say, now, emphatic swearing can be positive or negative. So it's just simply used to emphasize the emotion that the speaker is feeling at that time. So in a different situation where Mr. Maybe decides that my grade needs to be upped, he goes to power school, changes my grade, I get the notification on my phone, and I say, as you can see, the same word can take on many different meanings because it's used so often. Another example is that word. That word literally means to have sex. You could use this word to say, quote, "It is so brilliant. Okay, but if I was using, that doesn't make sense, right? If I was to insert the definition into that phrase, I'd be saying, it is so sexy brilliant. You know, it just doesn't make sense. Using the literal translation of a word is called a dysphonism. So, I walk into Mr. Maybe's class after he has upped my grade. And I give him a big hug, I say, Mr. Maybe, I was so excited that I literally, my pants. Now, if I was using a literal translation and talking to Mr. Maybe, I would definitely not want to use that word. Now, continuing with my story. Mr. Maybe, he responds to my thank you and he says, yeah, I looked back at the video and you weren't as I thought. Now, when he says this phrase, it tells me two things. First of all, that my presentation wasn't, but also that Mr. Maybe is comfortable enough around me to swear. This kind of swearing is called idiomatic swearing. It indicates a casual relationship between the two people engaged in a conversation. So I took a survey, 25 high school students, and asked them how much they liked when teachers swore. On average, I found that students slightly liked it more when the teachers swore. Then I asked them why. These are a couple responses I got. It breaks the wall of formality to casuality. Brings them down from a professional level to more of a friendship. And breaks down professionalism and allows for a casual and understanding relationship. I also asked them if they thought that teachers who swore were more honest. And the majority of them agreed that yes, teachers who swear are generally more honest. It seems that teachers who swear have a stronger relationship with the students because they use idiomatic swearing. Now, one of the most common question I was asked when I was taking the survey was, what kind of swearing are the teachers using, right? If the teacher's yelling at the students and they're saying, and they're mad at them and they're swearing at them, that's not going to help the relationship. Only idiomatic swearing is going to help a relationship. The last type of swearing is cathartic swearing. This type of swearing helps to relieve pain. So, continuing my example, after I give Mr. Maybe a big hug and tell him thank you, I start to walk out of the classroom, but Richard comes in, and he's mad, because I got an A+ and he didn't. So he's got a baseball bat in his hands and he breaks my shins with the baseball bat. And because I am doing this TED Talk and I know that swearing helps to release pain, I say this.
Oh my god.
Okay, so scientists have proven that swearing under pain works. They had college students put their hand in cold water and timed how long they lasted based on how many swear words they used. They found that students who swore more reported less pain, and in fact, they lasted for 40 seconds longer than those who didn't swear. An important note to make is that those that said they swore more on a daily basis felt less of an effect from swearing than those who didn't swear as much. In other words, the more we swear or we hear swear words, the less effect they have on us. And if you think about it, that makes sense, right? I can remember the first time my classmates swore and my disgusted reaction, but now when people swear, I'm I laugh sometimes because it doesn't have that much as an effect on me. So this is what I have to say to you. If you're going to swear, swear smart. If you'll have a better effect if you use it at the right time and in the right context. I think Steven Pinker put it best. Language has often been called a weapon, and people should be mindful about where to aim it and when to fire. Thank you.